might just pop their names into the chat and where they're from. It'd be handy to sort of have that record of folks and where they're coming in from today. So the agenda for today's meeting is, we've flipped this around a little bit, but we're going to open with Cass Nichols, CEO of BGANZ, to provide a CEO update. That'll be followed by a BGANZ Victoria committee update. We'll chat through an event that we've got planned for later in the year in October. So that'll be our sort of event for 2024 outside of the launch of the Living Collections Toolkit. And then we're going to jump in and do a soft launch of the Living Collections Toolkit, including an opportunity for questions and answers. It's something of a significant milestone, this one, to be able to get to this point. Acknowledge the work that we've been doing for many years on toolkits and databases and the like. So here we go. I've got my screen back. So with that, I'd love to introduce Cass Nichols, CEO of BGANZ, to provide a CEO update to the BGANZ Victoria network. So Cass, over to you.
Thanks, John, and hello, everybody. I won't keep you long because I know everyone's super excited about the toolkit, and that's what we're here for. So just a couple of quick updates. Just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who participated in Botanic Gardens Day. We had a record number of gardens participate. We had 34 gardens. I think actually 35, that just went up this morning. That's the ones we know of, so people have reported back to us. I would just ask if anyone has done something for Botanic Gardens Day, even if it is a social media post or campaign, if you could let us know, because we are trying to do an evaluation to determine the reach of Botanic Gardens Day and really look at how effective we are in promoting Botanic Gardens by having a specific month and day towards this. The other thing I just wanted to mention was we were successful in getting the South Australia University grant, which has enabled us to offer the visitation survey to all of our members at a very heavily discounted rate. So it still is $1,500, but it's down from $4,500. If anybody would like to participate in that, please do contact myself or Rebecca. We are hoping to get enough. We've got 18 members already participating, but the more we get, we'll be able to create a benchmark for visitation across the sector. So it would be really helpful, I guess, if more people do participate. If you're doing your own, the other thing we could look at is integrating some of the questions from the SA University survey into yours potentially, just so that we have a few key ones that we could then create that benchmark for. So please do let us know again if you're also doing your own, and potentially we could just tie a couple questions into that. The last thing is around, you may have seen, we sent out an expressions of interest for a feasibility study for the threatened species database for Botanic Gardens. We are looking for a few more people to join that group. The whole point of it is we want to try and determine if it's worth our effort in creating a database. So hopefully using something that's already in existence, but modifying something that's already in existence so that we have records specifically for Botanic Gardens and what each Botanic Garden is holding in relation to the threatened species. So yeah, we've got a few, we are looking for people who have experience with databases or have, particular knowledge around the nuances around threatened species and different state-based regulations and the way that they're recorded in taxonomy, etc. So if you are interested in that, or if you know somebody who is, again, please do contact myself or Rebecca. You can do that. Email is really easy, ceo@bgans.org.au, or the Secretariat one is also fine, which you might be more familiar with. So that is where I will leave it, and I'll hand back to John.
Terrific, Cass. Thanks very much. I was trying to work out the other day how long you have been with BGANZ. Is it 9 months, 10 months?
October.
October.
So, yeah,
okay.
was that, yeah, getting there.
Getting there. Thanks for the update, Cass. If there are any questions or comments, or let's use the chat. So drop some things into the chat, and we can use the chat to facilitate some engagement and to capture some of the conversations. I am going to just share my screen again if I can. Here we go. Hopefully. Hey, sorry, what have I done? Excuse me. I will stop sharing and share. Oh, look, I won't worry about it. I had a PowerPoint presentation which was animating some of what I'm about to say, but I've closed the presentation now. It's not worth me opening it up. So BGANZ Victoria business, very quickly, I think I mentioned at the start of the meeting that I'm manager of horticulture for 3 more days at the Royal Botanic Gardens. I'm transitioning to retirement, and with that, I'm planning to stay active in the BGANZ Victoria community and committee, but I've handed the convener role, the chair role, across to Tex Moon from the Dandenong Ranges Botanic Garden. So there's been some changes in personnel within the BGANZ Vic committee. So thanks, Tex, for jumping into the convener role, BGANZ Victoria. And Claire Hart from the RBG Melbourne is deputy chair. So she's your running mate for this one, Tex. But good on you. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks, John, and thanks to the rest of the committee for their support and I guess advocacy as well. Nice to know people of that high caliber see something worthwhile in you.
It's good. No, it's a good thing. Yeah, so thanks, Tex. I did have a slide of the balance of the committee, but I won't jump to that. But in terms of Victorian event or events for the balance of the year, we're hoping to get together in October as a network meeting face to face to acknowledge the Growing Victoria's Botanic Gardens grants. $4.5 million of grants from DECA in 2 rounds. About 20 gardens were benefited from the Growing Victoria's Regional Botanic Gardens grants. And the thought was to all get together as a network, and the topic of the day being of those 20 gardens, those that want to participate, reporting back on what the grant meant in terms of what the grant allowed individual gardens to do in terms of their achievements. The reason that we're thinking of trying to do this at the Victorian Parliament is that it was funded by DECA, it was funded by state government. The Parliament in and of itself is a really interesting place. It's got some really interesting gardens. It's got a fantastic green roof and the like. So, in terms of being able to have a look at behind the scenes at Parliament and have a look at some of the horticulture, it's an interesting venue in and of itself. But in essence, it's opportunity to like a bit of a nod to the state government for funding, for developing the grant program, and just sort of acknowledging back to the state government just how significant this series of grants was for this network. Hopefully coming out of that, they might realise the value of that, and there might be around 3 or around 4. But we're looking at October, date to be confirmed, but our next network meeting being a face-to-face, if not at Parliament, maybe at the Melbourne Gardens, but really acknowledging the Growing Victoria's Botanic Garden Grant Project and what that's meant to this membership. The BGANZ Victoria in and of itself was a recipient of a grant, of a Victorian government grant. We got $175,000 to do something about databases. And this project goes back for years and years and years. We did a survey back in 2016 of botanic gardens in Victoria and how we were tracking in terms of record keeping, and overwhelmingly the response was that we were really struggling in that space. So we applied for a grant to build capacity for the network in terms of record keeping. We were successful in attaining a $175,000 grant. The net result is that 24 botanic gardens in Victoria, so half of our network, jumped in with the opportunity and are now using the Hoarders database to document their living collections. So we've gone from 90% of gardens being somewhat dissatisfied with their records to well over half. We've built some serious capacity within the network to be able to assist the network in managing living collections. So that's with that in and of itself was a great result. We had some residual money from the 175,000. We had about 40K remaining from the 175. So with that, we thought, let's pitch an idea to DECA about the development of a living collections toolkit. You know, another piece to support regional botanic gardens in Victoria, but beyond, in managing their living collections. Years and years and years ago, we did a paper copy of a living collections toolkit, and the original thought was, let's just update that, digitize it, and make it available to the network. So a digital version of the same thing. What has happened? The project has morphed into something other, and really the next part of this meeting is really I dropped out.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. I think I got to with the next part of the meeting, and the balance of the meeting is really looking at the Living Collections Toolkit. I'm going to throw to Andrea Proctor and Tessa. I think Tessa's going to be behind the scenes, Andrea, is that right?
Yes, she is.
But if Tessa could just wave to the group or not, that's fine. Hey, Tessa. It has been a remarkable project. We've taken this hard copy 50-page document and it's morphed into something which is quite remarkable. I think there might have been a little bit of scope creep along the way. And
I think there might have been.
Yeah, and suffice to say that the people behind the scenes, and there's been many people behind the scenes that have contributed to the to this project. It ended up in the remit of the BCARM group, and a subcommittee of the BCARM group was established to sort of steer the project. And over the next little while, we'll demonstrate what the toolkit does, some of its functionality. And with that, I'll throw to Andrea. There was something in the chat that Tessa put in. If people do have any questions or observations or comments through Andrea's demonstration, pop them in the chat. We can either address them at the time or log them at the back end. So there'll be time at the back end for some Q&A. So over to Andrea from Andrea Proctor Landscapes, who has been the absolute champion of this Living Collections Toolkit project. So thank you, Andrea, and over to you.
Thank you, John. And I'm just going to share my screen. And I do have to say, John, sorry, I'm just going to get it so I can see everyone properly. I've got to say, John and Cherie Parker, I don't know if Cherie wants to turn on her camera as well, but you two have been absolutely the driving force from BGANZ as well. And we've had this incredible working group, and there was this wonderful photo we took of one of the early Teams meetings, because it was Tex, it was Donna, it was Peter Symes, it was Amanda Shade from Kings Park, Wolfgang Bopp from Christchurch, John Sandham, Amelia Jensen. It was just the who's who of the Botanic Gardens Network contributing to this, and it was John's original idea. And yes, there's been some scope creep, but I think we've got something really quite special here. So I'm going to try not to run over time and give you a little bit of a demonstration about what this toolkit can do. I'm going to remind myself I'm not teaching you how to use it. That will come with time, but what it is. And basically, we've been working with BGANZ and BCARM for the last 18 months on a toolkit where basically it's entirely online. You get access through BGANZ membership, and You will answer a whole series of questions about your collections at the moment. And basically at the end of the day, you can push a button and it will write you a beautifully formatted living collections plan, all the hard work done. There's still a fair bit involved in doing it because we want to make sure that it's personal to your garden and it works for your garden. But as Tessa described it, I'm sure there's a whole lot of people here that were children of the 90s. It's like a choose your own adventure novel. We will take you down a path and you'll get a beautiful plan at the end of it. So the toolkits, basically most of the toolkit's going to be locked down, so you only get access as a member. BGANZ is still working out how we'll manage it for people that aren't BGANZ members, but there is options for registration at the moment, but we'll just ask everyone to hold off because the plan is within the next couple of months, BGANZ is going to send around invitations to join the toolkit to gardens managers, and then they'll be responsible for managing individual memberships at a gardens level. So basically BGANZ will deal with one person like John Arnott or Tex Moon, and then they'll handle it with their staff. So the bit that's on the outside that the general public can see is actually quite limited. This is what you'll see. There's options to register, there's options for contact, and there's just a little bit about living collections. And what we realised pretty early on, that one of the big first stumbling blocks, and we know a lot of even the big gardens like Kings Park Botanic Gardens, they're always being contacted by smaller sites that are wanting to establish as botanic gardens. One of the big stumbling blocks is people actually don't know what living collections are. So we've really tried to write this as a, if you say you're a member of a community group and you are coming in cold, or you've got a new staff member, they've never been part of a botanic garden before, you can give them this to read and it will basically introduce them to what's special about botanic gardens and how living collections work. So there's a little bit of basic information there, just enough of a taster.
I think I sent it through, yeah. Once you send it through, I can.
Oh, sorry. No, I thought there was a question.
No, I think it's a prompt.
Yeah, no,
it's a
all
prompt
good.
for microphones off.
Little bit of information about what the toolkit does and about living collections, but all the magic happens once you have logged in. You'll log in, there's a garden dashboard, there's a whole lot of resources here where, and I've got to go hats off to Peter Symes here for pointing us in the right direction on a lot of this through Melbourne's plan. Tessa's brought a lot together. Amelia Jensen's been a big help through the germplasm database, but there's heaps of information here. There's resources on collections, on climate, you know, links to the CAT, links to the Bureau of Meteorology, soils, BGCI. There's also things like Nagoya protocols and international protocols here, legislation. It is Victorian focused because the funding originally came through DECA, but we're hoping to roll that out further. So there's a whole lot of really helpful information we've collected together there. The next part is how to use the toolkit. And this is long. There's a whole lot of different sections, and we're going to recommend to anyone who wants to use the toolkit, you really do need to read this start to finish before you get into the toolkit, because if you just jump straight into some of the exciting tools, I'm pretty sure you'll get lost pretty quickly. And this has been developed with that working group. Basically, if you've got any questions, hopefully this answers it, but it gives you a guide on how to use the toolkit. Living Collections 101. What are living collections? What are botanic gardens? What's the focus of living collections? What are you trying to do as your garden? And there's a whole lot of prompts through here to start to get you thinking. And it also talks you through what sort of, so principles, purpose of plant collections, the types of different collections, levels of curation, record keeping. And we've done a lot of work here trying to, we know a lot of gardens really struggle with trying to do too much or not knowing where their focus should be. And a small regional botanic garden like Kyneton, for example, is going to have a very different capacity and collections focus to a bigger regional like Geelong or Ballarat, or even a state level one like Royal Botanic Gardens Victoria or Kings Park. And we're trying to sort of provide enough information here to guide you through. It doesn't matter if you're right down at that bottom end where you might be having, you know, someone a day a week or a couple of days a week, all the way through to the big gardens there. It's going to talk to you about categorising your garden. What sort of process, what sort of research, what sort of documents should you be collecting ahead of time? Who should you be talking to? What sort of consultation process should you be following? And it talks you through all of that. So it's a really deep dive on instructions. And we're hoping to start doing a few YouTube videos as well on how to use it. But once you've sort of gone through and worked out what you're doing and collected all your background information, there's then two main tools. There's My Assessments and there's the Living Collections Plan. And the My Assessments, this is where one of the things we realised was, I think this is where the scope creep came in, John, but originally the intention was to have something that would write your living collections plan for you. But what we realised pretty early on was one of the big issues everyone faces is lack of direction in knowing what you're collecting and why. And as part of this, and this was Peter Syme's suggestion, we actually did a deep dive, not just on living collections plans from botanic gardens around the world, but also collections plans for things like museums and zoos, and having a look at what are the first principles of curation. And one of the big ones was knowing why you are collecting what you are collecting. And also trying to do it well. And what we're trying to do here is go, okay, whatever your capacity, do less, but do it well. Don't try and spread yourself too thin. Focus in on where you can provide the most value. And that's where these assessments come into play. And the first thing you'll get to do with your assessments is the first thing you have to do is answer a whole lot of questions about your garden. There'll be questions about, you know, how many existing collections do you have? How many horticulturists do you have? How many skilled volunteers? And this means like the high level volunteers. We're talking about the ones that are actually capable of running a collection, something like the team at Melton. You know, what statement describes your collection? Do you have the right amount? Do you have too many? Do you think you've got the right quantity, but you're not sure if they're the right ones for you to be focusing on? And all of this helps the system actually, if we go here, if this garden's now got 5 staff, it's going to make a recommendation on how many collections we think they can manage. It's just thinking. It's also going to ask you questions about how your garden, the quality of your garden as well. It's do you have a garden that's you know, few collections, little thematic consistency, poorly performing planting, and some of the smaller regional ones might actually fall in that category. Or do you have one where you've got really strong collections themes, but the horticultural management and the climate appropriateness is struggling? Or you might be the other way around. You might have this really amazing, strong horticultural garden, but you don't really have any collections. And basically what you add here is going to affect what the system recommends. So if you've got a garden where your themes are really strong, but you're poor, it's going to prioritise collections that fix the horticulture issue. If you've got a garden where the horticulture is strong and the collections priorities are all over the place, it's going to prioritise your answers for which collections align with what you want to do. And then it asks you to put in your priorities for your garden, because I think the issue a lot of us have as horticulturists and as botanic gardens managers, and I know I'm sort of outside that field, but I work with a lot of you, is there can be a desire to want to do everything and feel like we should be doing everything, where actually it doesn't actually end up being in the best interest of yourself, your staff, your garden to do that. And what this toolkit helps force you to do is go, okay, what is the main focus of my garden? And for a small regional garden, it might be more about education, display, and social, you know, collections that bring people joy, you know, children's gardens, sensory gardens, rose gardens, that sort of thing. Where for a bigger garden, you might be going, no, okay, cultural representation is really important here. And Shepparton's a really good example that's really embraced that. Or conservation might be really important. And it forces you to actually go, instead of thinking these are all important, what are the most important ones for our garden? Let's let it update. And once you've provided all this background information, you can then use that to assess your existing collections or any collections that you might want to develop. And the toolkit gives you guidance on how you might come up with those lists. So you'll then go to the My Assessments tool tab. And I've just created a demonstration collections here. And what I've done is I've gone through, we've got this imaginary botanic garden that we've developed for the sake of the toolkit. It's called Murray Botanic Gardens. We've made up an imaginary garden with an imaginary history. It was the simplest way to do it, an imaginary climate. I'm just picturing ChatGPT in a few years trying to convince the internet that this garden exists. It doesn't. But this imaginary garden here, I've listed a whole lot of different collections that this garden either may collect or may want to collect, and we've gone through and we've assessed them, and I'll show you how it works. But you can see here this list of imaginary collections here. The begonia collection, for example, has very good alignment with the garden's practicalities and priorities. The Murray River Corridor collection's pretty good, and then we've got some down here that are aligning poorly, and some that even have a caution, and I'll get to that. And the way this works is you've told us all about your garden, you've told us what your priorities are, you then go and assess this potential collection against their priorities. This is a sensory garden, you know, how well does that help education? Pretty good. Conservation, not really. And obviously you'd think about this a lot more than I am in just clicking buttons. Cultural to a degree, social is going to be incredibly good for a sensory garden, displays likely to be good, local relevance, that would depend. And then there's some practical questions. How well does this meet your climate suitability? Is there biosecurity risks? This is about weeds. These are about pests and diseases. Can you maintain it? Sensory gardens can be tricky to maintain. I've marked that one down. Local importance, and this is one that we the working group was quite keen to put in, because you might have a collection that is one particular staff member's passion project, and you can't underestimate the value to a collection of having someone that's deeply engaged in it. So we wanted to make sure we were considering that sort of thing. Design, how do you have space for this collection? You know, this can be a big problem in some gardens. And how well does it align with other strategies and plans you might have? Now, this one here, this particular collection, because I've suggested that there could be issues with maintaining it, it's actually flagged a caution. So the priorities at the top, which is how well it aligns with your garden's intentions and long-term plans, it's not a wipeout that something doesn't align. But if you've got a collection that is not climate appropriate or is a biosecurity risk, or you don't have space for, this will flag that as going, hey, wait a minute, guys, you need to consider it. And then it might be that you can manage that. It might be that you're in Western Australia and you're talking about myrtaceae and you're going, okay, you know, you can partially mitigate those risks of it being a myrtaceae collection, for example, and yes, you should. But basically it then asks you, okay, you've got a potential red flag here. Is this really a red flag or not? And we were quite keen with these assessments that your working group will have final say in what goes in and out of your plan. All this is meant to be doing is providing a bit of objectivity. So this particular collection, updating it, and you can run these again and again. You can try different scenarios. So the sensory garden actually ended up with very good alignment. Once you've finished your assessments and you've worked out what you're going to do, you click which ones you want to focus on. We're going to have more detail there, and you move to generate a living collections plan. And that assessment tool, we're thinking that some of the larger gardens, places like Royal Botanic Gardens Victoria, Botanic Gardens of Sydney, something like that, they may only use that assessment tool. They might want to write their own living collections plan, possibly should write their own living collections plan. But that tool could help them assess what they've got and what their priorities are. So I'm just going to go into one I prepared earlier. But basically this is, well, here we go. Sorry, there's still been a bit of building going on in the back end from the web designer, so this isn't looking quite as I was expecting. But how this basically works is this is where the Q&As start to come in. So there'll be a whole lot of set text that we've written for you. We'll talk to things about, you know, the sort of information that should go in the front end of all these reports, that's gone in the front end of reports. We've done a living collections plan for Gisborne Botanic Gardens. We've helped work on Royal Botanic Gardens Melbourne's. This is the sort of background information that goes in these documents. We've written this for you. We've written information on, you know, what's the difference between curation and gardens maintenance. We've written about the principles of plant collections and purposes. Then there's text boxes where you can actually talk about how this relates to your garden. This is where it starts to personalise. There'll be a text box there. We give you instructions on what to put there. We'll give you an example of what that might say. And there's these all the way through the document. There's questions about landscape displays, there's collections, there's information at the top. You can put in your methodology, you can put in who's on your working group, you can add your own terms to your glossary. You can put in introductions here to your garden, what is a living collection, overview of how collections work in your landscape. There's information for heritage gardens because we know a lot of you are heritage, but basically you go through and you slowly fill all of this out. You then fill out information about your collections you want to pursue, and then there's these action modules at the end. And this is really where a lot of the backgrounds work's gone with the Choose Your Own Adventure, because this is the, we've got 4 modules at the moment. We've got record keeping, climate, acquisition and display. There's been a lot of requests for more modules, particularly things around interpretation. We're hoping to get funding to roll out some more here. Biosecurity was another one. Collecting trips was another one. But what it basically does is, just like we've done in Living Collections Plans We've Written, there's a whole lot of information about record keeping, why it's important, how it works. There's a box there for you to put information on what you do. And then it's going to ask you a question about where your record keeping is at the moment, because the base list of actions we're going to start building on, it's different if you've got records on paper, simple spreadsheet, to if you're, you know, really well documented, you're using something like Hortus or Iris for your collections, or with very limited ones. And then basically there's a whole lot of options here. You can pick which ones of the actions you want to do. For example, for this one, do you want to develop a map on paper or do you want to use GIS software? And you pick which one you want. And you go through and it generates all these actions for you. And we're basically saying, this is what we think you should be doing. There's a bit of room to customise, but it's trying to set a standard and it's trying to be manageable for a small garden, not by limiting the quality of your curation, but the quantity of your curation. And it's not saying you get rid of the other plants. It's just saying this is for the really well curated ones. These are the ones you're focusing on. Anyway, you go through, you answer all the questions at the end, and in the end, you hit the PDF generator. And it will produce, whoa, stay on page. This has definitely gone a bit. You can put your own images in. Yes, clearly something's happening in the back end, but here's one I prepared earlier. At the end of the day, once you've filled it all out, you will get this beautiful document. These images are all, you can put your own images, you can put your own logo. Starts with acknowledgements there. Methodology, glossary, you can put your own terms to this glossary. Introduction, what is a living collection? And all of this is a mix of the information you've provided and the information we've written for you. It's graphically set. We're going to have more images than what's in here at the moment. But I'm going to jump down. Excuse me if I'm making anyone motion sick. Once you get through all the background information, here we go. You've got your levels of curation. You've got your specialist collections, your more highly curated ones. You've put your images in. It's providing information on the type of collections, descriptions of it, what are its strengths, what are the development priorities. And we took a bit of, we borrowed a bit from Royal Botanic Gardens Kew in how they laid out their collections here. It's high level. These aren't action plans. You'll have action plans that go with them, but this is a strategic document. This is the sort of document that you can go to your executive director, even if they don't have a Botanic Gardens background. You can go to funding bodies to try and get funding for implementation. It can sit on your website. It can sit with that suite of documents that's on your shelf that you pull out when suddenly you've got a new director and they're an engineer and they want to understand what you're doing and why. This can all be part of that. And you'll have all your collections in there. It's got information on retiring existing collections, if you're deaccessioning, what your approach is there. And then it goes into these actions. And there's a whole lot of actions here for, you know, basically for this garden, they have to develop an accession numbering system. They've decided they want to get plant record keeping software. It's got some information on what they should be collecting information on, and then how they go about accessioning it. You know, for a smaller garden, it might be that you start with the simple, you start with the new, and then you slowly work through. So that's what this toolkit can do. Do you want to add anything in there, John? Because I'm sure I've probably missed something.
Nothing beyond wow. You know, this is a remarkable, you know, I don't think anything like this exists across our regional network. I don't think anything like this exists across the global Botanic Garden network. So congratulations, Andrea, and Andrea Proctor Landscapes, Tessa. A shout out to Isaac Feeney, who essentially did a lot of behind the scenes work, and Wendy Farley.
Yes.
So yeah, we had a bunch of consultants that were assisting us with the project. But it's remarkable. I mean, the early in the piece we said, wouldn't it be fantastic if at the end of the process you could press a button and it would generate a Living Collections PDF for you that you could print and produce. Yeah. It's doing that.
Yeah.
It's quite remarkable.
Yeah.
So no, just a huge acknowledgement and thanks to Andrea Proctor from Andrea Proctor Landscapes and the team behind there. It's you know, countless hours of work.
Yeah, and I think the technical side and the web development side's been much more complex than any of us ever realised. And Wendy's been doing all the graphic design, and Tessa's been spending countless hours going through and testing it and trying to quote break it. So if we do it first, we can get it fixed so you don't. Yeah, and all those meetings with John and Cherie and the working group and everyone. Yeah.
Are there any comments or questions? Not a lot. There was a few. There's some commentary happening in the chat, but we'd just really love to open the floor to the members, to people in the meeting, to see if there are any questions, comments, concerns, observations. Open the floor. Maybe if you could raise your hand if you're keen to make a comment or have a question. Nothing yet. Donna, just stunning. Owen.
Again, congratulations. What a tool. I can certainly see multiple uses for getting funding, for planning, just to pull apart the collection.
We can't hear you properly.
Yeah, you're very quiet. No.
Oh. There we go. That'll do it. Yeah, no, congratulations. Can certainly see a lot of uses for this tool in the organisation to plan, to objectively assess our collections, and certainly agree with the sentiment that like it's hard to know what your priorities are when you've got a lot and you just want to do everything well. So to have some direction through this tool will be really good. Can't wait to play with it, to be honest. So keen to see when it goes out so we can have a bit of a dabble.
In terms of that, I mean, this is the beta version, and it still has some bugs. You know, we're looking we're looking at you know, a harder launch, and that could be associated with the network event in October. In the first instance, you know, because it's Victorian funding, we need to roll it out to the Victorian network, and essentially the soft opening has facilitated that. We can now sort of acquit the grant fully and close the grant off. But yeah, there's you know, would hate to put a firm date on it, but there's still a bit of work to do to clean it up, to get the images in, and to iron out some of the bugs that are still there.
There's still a little bit of testing going on. So if you're really keen to have a bit of a play from a testing point of view, you won't be able to do it for your own garden, but drop us an email and we might open that up slightly further. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, if you're keen to if you have time to have a go at quite breaking it, because that's what we're trying to do at the moment, make sure that that we don't have this odd combination that one particular brand of computer with one particular internet browser, does X. Yep. So if you want to have a little bit of a go with that, yeah, drop us an email and we might see about opening it up. So
Yep.
Yep.
There was a question here from Kirsty about how often should you reassess your living plant collection?
Aha. Yes. So one of the questions that we actually ask is how well established is your garden? If it's a new one that's rapidly changing, we're suggesting you might reassess it every 5 years. If it's one that's got pretty good longevity, it might be a 10-year. You don't want to be doing this too often because collections require time. Though I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Tex and John, but you need that longevity.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is being an online document, it can be updated incrementally as well.
Yes.
Because it can actually be a living document.
Yeah.
So if circumstances change, you all of a sudden get an additional 2 staff members. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yep. Yes.
You could actually adjust the living collection plan to suit. So it's quite dynamic, or it has the capacity to be quite dynamic. It also has the capacity to be done once and it's sitting there as a living collections plan that has years of currency.
And it might be something that even councils get endorsed, depending on the level of engagement between your council and your botanic garden. It might be something that you actually want formal council endorsement for, and it would be suitable for that.
I think the really lovely thing is the capacity to be able to, because we know local government gardens, there's a constant re-education of the new parks manager or the new ward councillor or the new mayor. And, it is this constant, they're really dynamic in terms of sometimes you get great support and great understanding from council. That disappears when an individual moves on. So it provides continuity and it provides, a single document that can be used as the education piece for when people come in, new people come in to, it's kind of the theme for Botanic Gardens Month was Botanic Gardens are more than a garden. And I think this toolkit is it's a mechanism of articulating exactly that. The Botanic Gardens, there are these other layers that you don't obviously see, particularly if you don't understand. So I think in and of itself, it has capacity to for advocacy. It's an advocacy piece.
We've been careful to write it plain English, clearly, as engagingly as we can, so that it's hopefully something that if you do give to someone new to read, it's not going to be a slog.
No.
Yeah.
Tessa's noting that it is so close to being ready. I might have indicated that it's not close. It is very, very close. But it's still at beta. So we're kind of doing that testing.
Yeah. We know some of the bugs. We're still looking for some of the others.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And a comment from Amanda from the Friends of the Gisborne Botanic Gardens. A brilliant tool. Thanks so much. Truly across all platforms for Botanic Garden aiding and coordinating efforts. That's great feedback. Thanks, Amanda.
And I'll just put my email address in there too. I've had someone ask.
Ripper, Andrea Proctor at andreaproctor.com.au. Thanks.
It's memorable if boring.
Thanks so much. Last chance for questions from the floor. Actually, it might be really difficult to do a straw poll, but I'd be interested to know how many in this group actually don't have a living collections plan, and might be intending to jump in and have a look.
Or due for renewal. How many think they might want to use this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Donna's just put her hand up.
Yeah, it's Doc here, John. Certainly for Gagaro, we'd be very interested.
Fantastic, Doc. Thanks for that. We've got Donna and a view all. I need to increase the size of the view all. We've got a few. Oh, God, it's hands everywhere.
How do I do that?
Donna, Liam from Sale, Kirsty from Bendigo, Cherie from Geelong. Charlie is Ballarat. is that, sorry, Justin Buckley. Oh my God, there's hands everywhere. Well, that's tremendous. I mean, that.
Oh, and there's more.
Oh, and there's more. Tex has got his hand
They're
up.
growing and growing.
Yeah,
Well,
I was doing thumbs up, but they don't stay, so I had to change it to a hands up.
Well, I know Scott Gilchrist got 3 botanic gardens because Kyneton, Malmesbury and Gisborne.
Where are you from, Maggie?
Melbourne Arboretum.
Oh, of course, Maggie. Yes, of course. You're obscured in my screen here. Thanks for coming along. And the Melbourne Arboretum is a brand new arboretum in Prospect. Some
This
great.
is just perfect timing for us. I'm really excited.
Fantastic. Is that a question from Lucy? Or it was just a hand up thinking you'll have a look at it? That's the latter.
I could see this being really helpful for new botanic gardens.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, and Amanda Shade in Kings Park was really running the flag for that as well, because they get a lot of gardens coming to them and saying we want to be a botanic garden, and they don't even know what it means. So, yep.
It does have huge scope to that end.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a terrific endorsement, and it looks like, I mean, we tested this early in the piece, so it's lovely that amount of interest has been generated out of this meeting. You extrapolate that across the broader Botanic Garden, just looking at CAS, we've got 120 members and 160 organisations that are in the mix. If you get a third of those looking to use the toolkit with some interest, it's critical mass, really.
Absolutely. And I mean, Doc and I are actually about to do a presentation to a group in WA who will want to start botanic gardens. So we will be promoting this big time. I mean, it will be essential, I think, for people, because we're talking about, individuals who don't have a network even over there, they don't have the expertise. And so this is, I think an incredible tool, which is really going to benefit those starting out. So huge congratulations to the team.
And that's the first time you've seen it. We've been talking about this toolkit for a long time, Cass. It's the first time you've seen it. So I'd be
except for a few screenshots.
I'd be interested in your thoughts. In fact, I'd be interested in your thoughts just now.
Oh yeah, I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think the fact that it does start off out with some very, basic knowledge. So as I said, for those people who are just starting out, it gives you all the information you need, so you don't have to have the skill set. But then that assessment tool I really like, as you said, for the gardens who do have the expertise, it still really helps you prioritize and make decisions. And sometimes that can be distorted if you have a personal opinion about something. So this takes away that, which I think is quite invaluable. So I think hopefully it will have benefit for every garden, ranging from those very experienced to the very new. So it'll be really interesting to see, people getting in there and playing with it and utilising it and starting to get that feedback.
Yep, terrific.
Yeah.
Can I butt in? Sorry, there's a few hands. I just want to ask one further question.
I wasn't sure whether that was an old hand or a hand, but
no, fresh hand.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering if there's a critical mass of gardens using this toolkit and they're using the same format, is there potential for a database in the background for collections browsing across the organisation? If we're all going through this toolkit and that data is stored in some central location?
I think the answer to that is, it's a really good question. I think the answer is yes. And that really speaks to one of the things that Cass talked to in her report earlier about that data share.
Yeah.
If we're just being parochial, we've got 24 gardens that are using Hortus. There might be overlap between the 24 gardens which are using Hortus and a good number of those gardens utilising the toolkit. It does become consistent. There's some consistency in the way that we're undertaking this collections curation work.
I know BGANZ Vic has done a little bit of work in that area, because it is one of the questions we ask with this toolkit for you to think about is, what is everyone else doing? Because I know there's certain collections that everyone they keep coming up again and again. You sort of got to go, okay, wait a minute, do you really want to collect that when already those are? So to be able to have easy access to that has been something that's come up through the process. So it'll probably have to be some sort of opt-in process.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And we should have said this at the outset, and you may have said it, Andrea, but in order to access the this toolkit, you need to be a institutional or associate or individual member.
Yeah. And you need to have a garden, and you need permission from the garden manager to use it. So there'll be someone who's actually the gatekeeper for that particular garden. It can't just be used by anyone without the head garden's permission.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just looking back in the chat, Charlie was from Ballarat and from the cemetery at Ballarat. We've got a comment about Sale would be good for. Glen Ira doesn't technically have a botanic garden, but can see the possibilities for a couple of our more botanically interesting parks. So it's a toolkit that has a reach into high quality local government managed parks, which is terrific.
I know the gardens at Burnley were also very interested. So Sasha obviously couldn't make it, but I know they were very interested.
Terrific.
Yeah.
In terms of next, sorry, Doc, is that a question from Doc or is that an old hand?
No, hand's still up, John. It's okay.
Okay. In terms of next steps, there is the beta testing phase which we're doing at the moment. I don't think we should put a hard date on the release, but certainly by the October meeting, we'd be looking at it being out amongst the membership. It'd be nice to report back to DECA on the use of the toolkit. So it'll be communicated. We do now have a really solid. Thanks, Rebecca. Harcourt from BGANZ Central. We have a really solid email list. So we'll continue to communicate about the progress of toolkit and rollout through that email contact list. Beauty. With 6 minutes to spare.
Can I jump in and use those 6 minutes as a privilege of my incoming role?
Of course, you are the chair.
I'll use it, and I'll say I'm going to put John on the spot and just really do a massive congratulations to John on really an incredible career. I, for one, am really, really happy that John's going to stick around with BGANZ Vic and continue mentoring me through some of his transition, which will be a nice thing. But really, I think this toolkit is just one of so many examples of the leadership that John and foresight that John has within the Botanic Gardens sector. I saw Peter Symes say earlier, John's a champion of Botanic Gardens globally, and I couldn't agree more. And I think we know John's incredibly passionate about plants and Botanic Gardens, but I think the overwhelming quality that John has is this incredible superpower to spot potential in people and give them a gentle nudge in the right direction to make sure they take opportunities when they come up. And I'm absolutely an example of that, and that I guess has been pretty profound for me. So thanks, John. Thanks for everything you've done, and I'm glad that we'll have lots more opportunities to celebrate you. And but as far as Friday, I know you've got your own team doing a send off for you on Friday. But yeah, congratulations and an absolute well done. And I just don't think we can say again, the influence you've had just can't be understated. So yeah, well done.
Oh, thanks for that. Oh, look, we're out of time. No, thanks, Tex. That means a lot. Yep.
I was just going to echo that. So good on you, Tex, because I've only had the pleasure of knowing John since obviously October, and in that short time, I already think he's an absolute legend. And we, just so everyone knows, we're not letting him go. Retirement means he's going to be actively engaged in BGANZ. So you'll obviously have a chance to hopefully still interact with John anyway, and we really look forward to continue working with him. And just massive thank you. You've done so much for BGANZ and for the Victorian network and beyond. So we can't thank you enough. And I'm sure everybody here agrees. But if anyone wants to jump online and say a thank you, then please take that opportunity to do it.
Thanks.
Embarrassing.
Thanks, Cass. Yeah, and we must be out of time. We no, thanks very much. Well, it's been a hell of a ride. I was reflecting back on it was, I remember the date. It was October the 10th. 2000 was the first meeting of the Victorian Regional Botanic Gardens network, and there's a few of us that have persisted since then, but that's 20 years ago. And look, a word on BGANZ Vic. I think BGANZ Vic, it is the most active. It is the most active network, and that is about this community of botanic gardens that we've established. And I think in terms of density, I think Victoria is unique globally in having so many botanic gardens within a state. I can't think of any other location globally which has got this concentration of botanic gardens, and it's a hell of a community, and it's been a joy to be involved with it and to continue to be involved. I think that's the key point. So thanks all. With that, I think we should close the meeting. Keep an eye out on email. We'll keep updating the network on any updates that we have. But thanks so much for joining. It looks like we had about 30 people in the meeting, so wonderful. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you down the track.
See you, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks all. Bye.